Hi, welcome to this monthly podcast entitled What I'm Reading Now. In this podcast, we will examine and explore various thought-provoking books to identify their content's deep meaning and purposes, transferring them into practical applications for everyday living. So each month I'm reading a different book and sharing it with you, everyone. So this month's book is entitled Raising Mentally Strong Kids by Dr. Amen and Dr. Faye, PhD. And it was a great book for parents. And like I said, I want to explore books in terms of helping people with their families and also helping educators. So this book is a practical neuropsychology of parenting success. It focuses on brain health, parenting styles, and the core tools for building mental strength. So let me begin with a fun fact about the brain. Male brains have 10% more neurons, and female brains have more connections. As you can see, just neurologically, men and women are very different. So let's look. We're going to look at 11 chapters. The book has about 13, but we're going to focus on 11. And the first chapter is entitled Healthy Brains, the Foundation of Mental Strength, Responsibility, Emotional Control, and Success. So basically, this chapter explores neuroscience basics for parenting and why brain health is key to resilience. And Dr. Amen, this is his focus. It's always about the brain. And so he shares all of his deep research in this book. So let's look at some parenting tips. He says, allow kids to make small mistakes that come with small consequences and to enjoy the thrill of early successes. He says, introduce them to the concept of brain health and start teaching them to love their brain. This is really something that you as a parent can do. Another parenting tip he adds, introduce novelty to a young age when the brain is more malleable. And this is so true. Many schools are starting to teach even various languages, or you can even have your child take music lessons or gymnastics, anything that's new and novel. Another parenting tip in this chapter, every thought you have triggers a release of neurochemicals that impact brain function. Think about that. Every thought you have either is releasing positive neurochemicals or actually damaging neurochemicals. He says thoughts can be positive and beneficial or negative and harmful. If your brain is infested, he calls them with automatic negative thoughts, they can steal your mind and rob you and your child of joy. He says, learn to kill those automatic negative thoughts by questioning your thoughts. And so many times we all have these quick thoughts coming to our mind. We don't question them. We don't even examine them at all. He says, teach this simple method to kids of all ages. He says, whenever you have a thought that makes you feel bad, mad, sad, or out of control, ask yourself if it is true. So he wants us to change our negative thoughts and actually switch them to positive thoughts. So if something's not true, you really shouldn't be thinking about it, because it creates inflammation in your brain and also in your body. Having high levels of inflammation harms the organs in your body, including your brain. Elevated inflammation is associated, listen to what it's associated with, mood issues, lack of motivation, and even leaky gut, which we're hearing a lot about right now. He says gastrointestinal issues, allergies, and more. Research shows that chronic systemic inflammation at an early age in children has long-term impacts on brain development. This is true. When you see children at a very young age having all kinds of, especially gastrointestinal issues, it does impact their thinking and their brain function. He says brain health and mental health issues clearly run in families, and this is true. However, he says your genes are not your destiny. Your daily habits can influence those genes and either switch them on or off, which we talked about epigenetics before. He says certain foods can increase blood flow to the brain. Did you know that certain foods, for example, like pomegranates, citrus fruit, and walnuts increase blood flow? And in this book, he does just give you various healthy diets that you can feed yourself and your children. He says that anything that interferes with brain function can also interfere with character. Did you know there's a link between brain function and character? In a number of studies, he identifies poor brain function has been associated with decreased morality. Think about that. A moral person, he said, is someone who does the right thing, is fair in their actions, and avoids doing harm without necessary reasons. Then he says, who your child becomes, in part, is shaped by brain function. Think about that. Moral character is connected to brain function. He says there are 4 circles of mental strength: biology, biological, psychological, social, and spiritual. And then he talks here in this chapter about cause and effect. And this was some new information I did not know. It says cause and effect is learned in the first year of life. And you say, well, how does that happen? Through the attachment style of the parent. He says, for example, every time the child cries and you pick them up, you're teaching them that when I cry, my parents will come. Cause and effect. He says, which is an important psychology vehicle frame of reference. It actually teaches cause and effect. So you see this with small children. They don't understand the whole concept of cause and effect. If I hit someone, there's going to be a consequence. They haven't internalized that, and it may come back to the attachment style that the parent had or did not have with them. So he does share some action steps in this chapter. Every day, he said, you are modeling health or illness. If your child is older, he said, it's never too late to boost your brain health and parenting skills. He says, stay focused on the road ahead and don't worry about what mistakes were done in the past. So you can pick up this book at any age that your child is in any age, and you can start implementing these strategies. So let's look at chapter 2. Mentally strong kids, he said, live by clearly defined goals. In this chapter are strategies for helping children set and pursue meaningful objectives. So as a parent, you're guiding the child. He said it's important to have clearly defined goals, and we've heard a lot about goals, for you and your family. This can be done, he says, by using love and logic. And the whole book really talks about this parenting style that includes love and logic, which includes teaching your child, listen to what it includes, teaching your child to take responsibility for their life and decisions, helping them to care about others and displaying good character, and helping them focus on most of their energy, on their strengths. So this is what we want to do as parents, helping our children take responsibility, helping them to learn to care for others, and displaying good character, and helping them to focus their energy on their strengths. This chapter discusses how to find purpose in life, and they suggest that you ask these questions about you. So this is for the parents. Remember, it always begins with the parents, and then the parents can help the children. So these questions are for the parents. So if you're a parent, you can be thinking about this. For the parents, he wants you to ask this question: what do you love to do? Do you love to cook, write, draw, or teach? What is something you feel qualified to teach others? He calls these the wisdom principles. He wants parents to answer this question: what do you do? Who do you do it for? And how does your work connect you to others? People, parents, or teachers? And then he goes on, number 3, are there hurts from your past that you can turn into help for others? He says, turn your pain into purpose. And I've read this in so many places, that you can use your past experiences to help others. And then number 4, what do others want or need from you? Fill in those answers. Number 5, how do others change as a result of what you do? Number 6, how do you want to be remembered after you die? What do you want your legacy to be? So if you notice that only 2 of the 6 questions were about you, 4 of them were about others. He says here in this chapter that happiness and meaning is often found in helping others. It's always about other people. So here's a parenting tip in this chapter. A study in 2015 found that writing things down increases memory and brain function. Think about that. Writing things down. Remember, goals determine your behavior. He talks about writing goals for yourself and your children. And he said, keep your goals visible. He suggests that parents have parenting goals and goals for their children, and he suggests that you look at them every day. This is how you write them down, and then you look at them. So remember, you want to write down your clearly defined goals for you and your family and for your children, and then each day he wants you to look at them. He suggests putting them on your refrigerator, maybe on a bathroom mirror, but that every day people are looking at their goals. And one of the earmarks of this parenting is using two words. Firm and kind are the essence of great parents who raise great people. If you want to raise great children, then you need to remember these two words, firm and kind. So let's look at chapter 3. Is your parenting style breeding mental strength or weakness? He identifies 3 common parenting styles. They are helicopter parenting. We've heard a lot about that. Drill sergeant, which is not something you want to do. And the third one is consultant parenting, which includes love and logic. That's the approach. He says that consultant parenting, who are loving and firm, there's those words, who also empower their children to take responsibility for their decisions. So this is something that every parent can do. Don't be a drill sergeant. Don't be a helicopter parent. Research shows that overbearing parents, drill sergeant parents, can even play a role in eating disorders, and this really makes sense, in which kids restrict their eating as a way to gain control over at least one thing in their life. So when a child has no sense of autonomy, no sense of control, no sense of agency, because the parent may be he calls it a drill sergeant, the child wants to have some kind of control. It may lead to eating disorders. Remember, rules without relationship equal rebellion. We want to be consultants to our children, he says, loving and firm by giving them options, choices, which includes mental training and showing respect. We allow the children to learn from small mistakes, which we talked about earlier. We allow for affordable consequences. For example, if they get angry and break something, they've lost their toys, right? If they get a speeding ticket, they have to pay the fine. If they refuse to eat what is served at dinner, they'll feel hungry until breakfast. So you want the consequences to follow immediately after the infraction, and it needs to be practical and can't be overboard. So then he talks about showing respect to the children. How do children show respect? And he talks a lot about, remember, building character. And this is what one of the families uses. He says, being polite. We use kind words. We display good manners. We say please and thank you and excuse me. And I think sometimes families don't even have these discussions. I think it's so important to sit down and say, what are our family rules? What do we want to do? Another rule is we share with others. We wait patiently. We're careful with other people's things so we don't break them. We're speaking with a quiet voice in public settings, being calm in public areas, letting others speak without interrupting, and doing what parents ask them to do without whining. Isn't these great rules that you can implement and put in your home? How can we act in our love and logic at home? And this is for parents and also for children. You treat everyone with respect. People are free to do anything they want as long as it does not cause a problem for anyone else. If you cause a problem, think about this, you will be asked to solve it. So if a child causes a problem, maybe breaks something or starts a fight, what they recommend is that you let the child solve the problem. They say if you can't solve the problem you created, then the parent will have to do something. What the parent will do will depend on your unique person and your unique situation. Example, if you ever believe, this is a parent speaking to a child, if you ever believe there's something I have done is unfair, the parent says to the child, please let me know by whispering it to me. I'm not sure that's fair. When we can schedule a time to talk, what you say may or may not change what I decide to do. So it's really having these really calm conversations with your children. And now remember, the book is a lot about relationships. In chapter 4, Nothing Works Without Relationships is the title. This chapter talks about building strong parent-child bonds as the basis for effective guidance. So your child's not going to listen to you if you haven't built a positive bonding experience. And that really depends on meeting the child's need and demonstrating empathy to the child. This chapter discusses the importance of bonding, spending quality time with your children, listening, speaking nicely, and showing them compassion. It focuses on brain health, goals, and parenting styles via relationships. He says positive bonding provides a host of benefits that contribute to mental strength and ultimately make your job as a parent easier. Think about that. Parenting shouldn't be that difficult. If you've been developing those healthy bonds, spending quality time with your children from birth, meeting their needs so they understand cause and effect, your job as a parent should not be that difficult, including developing shared values, healthier brain development, better ability to cope with stress, enhancing learned and life skills, and reduce risky behavior. If a parent has developed this healthy bond with their children, even when they're a teenager, they will develop your shared values. I've seen so many young people that have adopted their parents' values because the parents have developed the healthy bonds. And research by Michael Resnick found that teenagers who felt loved and connected to their parents had a significant lower incidence of teenage pregnancy, drug use, violence, and suicide. The degree that the child is connected through the limbic system, which occurs in the emotional centers of the brain, actually protects the child. Think about that. You're bonding with your child, showing them compassion and empathy, protects them. It's called a protective factor. He says yelling leads to smaller brains in teenagers. Empathy helps with learning and bonding. Empathy builds confidence and resilience. What does effective strategies look like? So one of the things they talked about was effective listening, which includes repeating back what you hear without judgment, listening for feedback behind the words, and reflecting back what the child is saying and feeling. For example, I hear that you're saying this. Tell me more about how you're feeling. Effective parenting strategies include special time, we've talked about that, the first year cycle and the second year cycle. There are needs that have to be met. And so many people don't realize how important those first two or 3 years are actually. For example, in the first year of the child, you're meeting the needs for bonding. You're also meeting the need for your child's pro-social behavior by you showing them empathy, by you showing them compassion. You're teaching them to have pro-social behavior. You're teaching your child cause and effect, which we discussed. This can be accomplished, they say, by providing special time with your child. For example, what you need to do, listen to what they suggest. 20 minutes of basically what you're doing with the child, of what they like to do without questions or comments from you. So 20 minutes of playing with the child, doing whatever the child likes to do, without any negative comments or questions from you. Just noticing behavior, positive behavior, and listening. That's an effective parenting strategy. Think about that. You're spending time doing what the child wants to do, 20 minutes, just noticing, and then you can actually help your child identify some areas of strength. You've been watching, you've been listening, you've been observing. He says that there are 4 steps of taking responsibility. And so this is something you can do with a small child. It could be cleaning up their toys. It could be making their bed. It could be something as simple as setting the table. He says what you should do is, in step 1, you give your child a task to handle, cleaning out their toy box. And then you hope that they will make a mistake or misbehave. Because then in step 3, you provide sincere empathy. Oh, I'm sorry that you spilled or you didn't clean up as you were told. And then you allow them to live with the consequences of their mistake or misbehavior. And then number 4, guess what you do? You give them the task again so that they can actually have success. So you always want to help your child be successful. So don't give up if they don't do it right the first time. You want to give them another opportunity to be successful. So let's look at Chapter 5. Limits and rules build mental fortitude. He says setting boundaries that foster responsibility and emotional control. And so here they talked a lot about how you can converse with your children so that you are setting limits, but you're also being understanding. Remember, fun, firm. Kids, they say, need rules and limits. It's true. A permissive home without limits is bad. Children need authoritative parenting, one who facilitates responsibility. And these are the things you want to facilitate in your children. Responsibility, independence, social skills, and academic performance, and good behavior. He says love and logic include, for example, saying things like, I love you too much to argue. What did I say? I know. I'll listen when your voice is calm and respectful. Remember, every thought has a chemical release. Parents should use I will statements. So this is what they recommend. You can say, for example, I will listen when your voice is calm like mine. I will drive you to baseball practice when I see that you have taken out the trash. I will help with your homework as long as I feel that I am being treated fairly, nicely. So he suggests that parents use I will statements. Remember, empathy is associated with learning and executive functioning. So many young children are struggling with executive functioning, and this really is a prerequisite because what happens is it decreases the fight or flight response. So empathy decreases that fight or flight. When a child is in fight or flight or freeze, they can't think right. They can't problem solve. They can't perform executive functioning activities like what happens first, what do I do next, completing a project. And so he says that when you provide empathy for a child, you actually build that executive functioning skill. And Dr. Amen has 8 essential rules for his kids. So each family here had different rules. His rules include tell the truth, you treat others with respect. 3, you do what mom and dad says the first time. 4, no arguing with parents. Number 5, respect each other's property. Number 6, put away things you take out. Number 7, ask permission before you go somewhere. Number 8, look for ways to be kind and helpful to each other. So he says you should write down these rules so they're visible and everyone understands them. I think that's such a great idea because you don't want to wait for something to happen and then discuss the rules. They should be ongoing conversations. Number 6, loving discipline leads to mental strength. Here he gives you techniques for discipline that emphasize, once again, empathy and logic over punishment. Help your children learn consequences when they are small. This is so important that, like I said, if they throw a toy and it breaks, well, that's a consequence. They don't have that toy. Discipline, he said, is about teaching, instruction, training to learn. Discipline is a way to teach children how to develop self-control. And I thought this is such a key piece because if you don't teach your child self-control, the child will not have self-control. A parent must be fun and firm, we've talked about that, supportive but demanding. So what's good discipline look like? It allows for safe mistakes. It provides empathy. It helps children develop self-discipline so they can experience freedom. So you know that when a child is self-disciplined, you can give them more freedom. Help them to learn to remain mentally strong in face of hardship, helping them do things that are hard, building resilience. And it's all to preserve our sanity in our relationships with our children. He says, create a disciplined GPS for your family. You can do this by creating a principle-based approach. You model and teach the behavior. When your child makes a mistake, you demonstrate empathy rather than anger, lectures, and threats or sarcasm. When possible, give your child an opportunity to solve the problem. Always allow the child an opportunity to solve their problem. It's going to really build their self-esteem. He says, fewer words and actions speak louder than words. And he said, always provide logical consequences. So now let's look at chapter 7. Mental hygiene is critical for parents and kids. And this is where he talks a lot about automatic negative thoughts. And these are those thoughts that everybody has, those negative, even children. Children have automatic, their child might say, nobody likes me at school. And he said that you have to help your child overcome these automatic negative thoughts and find areas of strength for them. And one thing that he says that helps with automatic negative thoughts is gratitude, just adopting an attitude of gratitude. And then he says that when you do have an automatic negative thought, this is something this is an exercise you can do, you can teach your children to do. The first thing you need to ask yourself when you have this automatic negative thought, he calls it ANT, A-N-T, is first thing you have to ask yourself, is it true? Like the child might say, no one at school likes me. Then you have to ask the child, is that really true? Then number two, is it absolutely true, 100% all the time? And then he wants you to ask the child, how do you feel if you believe this thought? And number four, how would I feel if I didn't have this thought? Obviously, you turn it around. He says, take the original thought and completely turn it around to its opposite. Then tell yourself the new version may be true or truer than the original. So maybe with the child might say, nobody likes me. Maybe that you can help the child identify individuals in their lives, their friends, their family, that do like them. So you turn the negative thought around. And this is how we have to teach this to children. Number 8, raising strong and capable kids. He says that this chapter is practical steps to develop confidence, kindness, and independence. And basically he says that teaching them new skills, like, for example, learning how to play an instrument. He says that we have to teach our children that they're children who have purpose and destiny. So, helping them see what's their area of strength, how do you want to serve other people, are less depressed, more happier, more self-accepting, more satisfied with their lives, and more open to personal growth, healthier mentally, emotionally. They're able to sleep better and live longer. So help your child answer this question. And it's interesting because I was with some young people this weekend, and they were young. They were under 16. But I could already tell that they had a sense of purpose and destiny. They were already taking responsibility. They were already doing things that were important. And I could tell that this was healthy for them. He says, he wants you to ask your child, why is the world a better place? Because you're here. What can you contribute? Help them to build strong skills. Teach them how to do stuff. This is so important. You as a parent can teach them how to clean their room, how to cook, maybe even how to budget. So it's up to us to help our children to learn. And then also teach them to say no to themselves. Building that self-control is really key. Number 9, helping kids maintain healthy bodies for stronger minds. Here he talks a lot about nutrition, exercise, and sleep. And he says that it's so important that our children, obviously we know this, eat healthy foods because it increases your happiness. And then he says here in this chapter, learning something new. You should learn, you can learn something new, teach your child to learn something new. The learning something new actually is really good for your brain. And the research is showing now that multitasking is not good for your brain. So it's not a good thing to do 3 or 4 things at the same time. But it actually it actually shrinks your brain. But you want to help your children learn something new, to practice maybe learning an instrument, like I said earlier, juggling or doing something to help them their brain to become stronger. And then we're going to end here with chapter 10, when parents have differing styles. And here he talks about you might have 2 parents on 2 sides of the, maybe there's a divorce and have different parenting styles. He says here you have to focus on the positives of the other parent. And so for every negative that you might hear or say about the other parent, he says you should actually provide 10 positive to counteract that. So it's so important that children learn that they can be empathetic, that they can forgive, that there is unconditional love, and you can help children to learn that. And then the last chapter, I'll just quickly review, is reaching the underachieved child. And here he talks about when a child may not have motivation, may not be focused in overcoming barriers. He says, be curious, not furious. Find out what's going on with the child. It could be anxiety. It could be things that the child is struggling with. It could be that automatic negative thinking. And so he says here that it's up to us as parents to be researching to find out what's going on with the child and then provide opportunities for them to be successful, The 12th chapter is about technology misuse and addiction, but we've already talked about that. So just wanted to end there. Thank you so much. That was a lot of information. Like I said, it was really powerful in terms of giving you some suggestions, some strategies for you to use as a parent, beginning very young. Remember, bonding, empathy, spending time, and then using I will statements. But thanks again for joining me. Hope to see you next month. Next month, we'll look at another biblical character. Have a wonderful month, and we'll see you next time.